All right, welcome everybody to Free Spirit Radio. I'm super excited you're here. I am your host, Jaya Rose, and I am beyond excited to introduce my amazing friend, Chantelle Adams. I'm actually gonna read what I wrote down because otherwise I will forget everything. All right, so let me introduce her. Chantelle Adams is a speech stylist, professional speaker, and courage igniter. She is the creator of Center Stage Live, the best program for emerging speakers. And
Oh,
she is seriously the kindest, most generous, and amazing person. So I can't wait to introduce you to her. And if you already know her, you know these things. So welcome, Chantelle. I think you're already here.
I am.
And there you are.
Can
Awesome.
you see me? I don't know if you can see me, but I'm
Yeah.
here.
I can see you and I can hear you. If everyone else can't, they're missing out. But there's only like so much we can do when we're dealing with the technical aspects. Like we just put it out there and then we pray.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. So first I just want to touch on like how we know each other because I feel like we're total soul sisters, kindred spirits, and our paths have definitely like crossed. But I also feel like there's so much more to come for us. Do you feel
Yes.
am I in that alone?
There's more to come. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I know I connected with you through our mutual friend, Lori Joy, right? And she's like this
Yes.
little firecracker go-getter.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's when you came across me too, through Lori.
Well, I came to Shine Live in
Yeah.
Canada, which
Yeah.
literally changed my life and my business.
Hmm.
Then we spoke at the same event again in Canada. And I think from there we were just like, yay, I love you.
Let's do this.
Yeah, exactly. So you have been speaking on stage for a long time, I think, right? How long exactly?
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I've been speaking for probably 20 years on stages, but it was about now 9 years ago when I started really speaking
Wow.
professionally. Spoke for about 5 years, mostly in the education and corporate space, but did about 800 speeches in those 5 years. So it's like
Wow.
175 a year kind of average was what I was doing. So
225 a year.
175 a year.
This is like a couple a month.
It was actually condensed into 6 months. I would go and I would actually speak. I would actually bring my mom in. She'd stay with the kids, do the whole like mother-in-law nanny thing, which my husband loved. Um,
Yeah.
and then I would go for a whole week and I would do bang, 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 bang speeches and then
Wow.
come back. And so, yeah, there was often usually around 20 in a month.
That is amazing. Do you feel like that's a really good way to get one, the courage, right? I know it takes courage to get on stage, but also it's a skill, of course. But do you feel like do you suggest that to people to just do a lot of speeches?
Well, absolutely. In the beginning, do the ones that come your way, right? And also,
Right.
but of course, we have all these beautiful platforms like what we're doing right here, where
Right.
you can practice without having to be on a formal stage. You can get on podcasts and interviews, and all of that exposure is going to help you to be able to hone your skills as a speaker.
That is so amazing. And that's changed, right? So when you started 9 years ago, obviously we didn't
Yeah,
have these things. But I love how Facebook Live is emerging as this platform to become a speaker, one, to get seen as a speaker, but also to practice.
absolutely.
And there's a lot that's unknown about Facebook Live. Things are still being discovered, and we don't know really what the impact is in the full spectrum. But I do, and so I'm curious. Have you thought about that because I know you teach people how to speak, right? You have your Center Stage Live is your core program, but I'm sure you do other things as well.
Yeah.
Do you work with live video at all, or suggest that to people?
I absolutely suggest it. I'm still like the newbie myself. I don't know. There's something about Facebook Live, even though I can stand on a stage and I love interviews, so
Yeah.
podcasts, all that jazz. But Facebook Live does make me super nervous. So
Ah, what is it? What is it about it?
I think for me, it's about really having something profound to say in a way, right? And yet knowing I don't need to have anything profound to say. But
Yeah.
what kind of hangs me up at times is like, do I have like this most profound nugget to share with people today, right? So, and I think also hair, makeup, I often am totally pulling the bun and the no makeup and doing the sweatpants and pajama thing in this online space. So there's a little bit of that too, where it's like, do I really want to go on Facebook Live looking like this?
I think so many people have that going on, and I can definitely understand, but I think if this makes anybody feel any better, I would just like to share with you what's happening.
Wow, look at how flexible you are. That's all I'm seeing.
I'm flexible, but like, I always have, so it's just like, this is 5 minutes at the top.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a little bit of effort, but at the same time, it's much easier than having a corporate job where you have to get up and put your makeup on, right?
Yeah.
I don't feel like you have to wear makeup but I do think, and this is my rule, and see what you think about this, but my rule is if you would go meet a client in person or even like a girlfriend for tea, that it would be smart to show up in your brand a similar way.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but it is definitely, I mean, as you see too, you showing up Facebook Live and just being consistent and visible is what's attracting people to you, to bring you to the stage. So it's definitely a huge part, which is where I see a lot of beautiful collaborations happening in the future, because it is a huge piece of, and I teach to do this, and I share to get on podcasts, and all the online speaking platforms are absolutely a way to get noticed and get booked to speak, for sure.
That is awesome. So I want to dive more into speaking because obviously I'm obsessed with speaking as well. But I'm curious, so I know you've been speaking for 9 years. Was that, or like, technically speaking for 9 years, but was that when you really decided, okay, I'm going to get out there and take my message? Or was there a different time that you had that experience? Like, I'm curious about a time when you were like, I want more. I'm going to go bigger.
There's been a few of those iterations, I think, over the course of my journey. But as far as, I was actually working in the school and working with special needs kids, and I remember we would go to assemblies, they'd bring in these presenters, and either they were boring but had a great message, and the kids were so hard to keep focused, and you're like, oh my goodness, can we just add some kind of entertainment or fun things in here? Or they were super entertaining but had zero message. And I'm like, what were we just teaching our kids? Like, we just pulled them out of class for what? Just to laugh. Which laughter is good, but do you know what I mean? So I saw this disconnect and this gap, which is what we do as entrepreneurs. We accept the gap. And I was like, I could do this. I could totally do this. And so that's what I did. I started off in schools doing assembly programs where I would teach values like courage and honesty, but I would bring I was like Ellen of the elementary schools. I would bring the gigantic dice and board game, and we would play dare, and I'd have them eating crazy things, all those little jelly beans, and I just made it really fun, but then also hit home the message. And it was a blast. I know my husband's I always wanted to be like the Beyonce, right? Or singer, dancer, performer.
You totally are.
Total celebrity. And so he would laugh because we'd be shopping or at the swimming pool, and all these little kids would be like, oh, it's Chantelle Adams. So I was totally in my element of the elementary school celebrity when I first started. But that piece served me well, and I felt like I really gave back and created a bit of a legacy there. And then there came a point where I knew and this is something I say all the time, that I get fear. I get those nervous feelings every time I take the stage. And I've always said that the day that I stop feeling that before I take the stage is the day I shouldn't be speaking in that format. And so I remember going to an assembly, and every time, because you want to show up for your, in the best place. And every time I would get those butterflies and that feeling. And then I remember one year going and feeling nothing and going, it's time to shift. It's time for something new.
So that feeling that what you were doing wasn't pushing you anymore is what created the next step for you. And was that online?
Yes. So originally I was actually going to take all my assembly programs and format them for other people to go and teach them. And I would just leverage that.
Okay.
And it was in actually jumping out of the airplane where I, faced one of my biggest fears and had all these beautiful women entrepreneurs who like rose up to help me create a website, to do the copy, to help me to publish the book that we co-authored together. It was in that like really crazy experience where I was like, ooh, I love women entrepreneurs. Like they are my people. They are passionate and excited and driven and want to make an impact and a difference in the world. And so that's when I went, what can I do? How can I work with these women? And I thought it was encourage strictly like courage. Like I was going to help them face their fears and overcome those fears to really step into their message. And then I realized after a Zumba class, I was shaking my booty and I walked out, and it was months of me trying to figure this out. Like, what is the thing I'm supposed to be teaching? Or what do I have to give? And it was like staring me right in the face. Like, hello, I had just spoken 5 years. And that was it just hit me. It was like, I can teach them how to speak.
Ooh, I got chills.
And I sat in my car after that little download, 20 minutes. I had my entire center stage program mapped out. I went home, I put it on Facebook, and I'm like, would anybody be interested in this? And I got like 100 or 200, I can't remember now, but heck yes, in the comments. And I was like, okay, this is a thing, right?
So you have a following at that point already? Had you been leveraging social media?
No. So when I launched Center Stage, I had no website. I put the sales page was a blog post on my other speaker's website. So it didn't even match. And it was an ugly PayPal button. And I just put it up there. And within 6 weeks, I didn't even have the program done. I created it as I went, but I launched that puppy. We did the beta round. I wanted 10 women. I got 11. It was so exciting. And then I launched.
This is incredible.
Yeah. Then I launched again in the new year I had a list of about 127 people that had done a challenge with me.
Oh my.
And I had a 10K launch because I had it priced at $697 and 18 women said yes.
Yeah. Okay. So rewind.
Yeah.
Hello. Let's just speak to that for a minute, because yes, we're going to talk about speaking. That's really important, but your business is also really important, because what you want to leverage by speaking is your business, right? So the fact that you could have a 10K launch with 127 people on your list. Hello, number one.
Right.
And number two, something that really stuck out to me is how you were really searching. And so I feel like there's a couple ways to search. One way that's like, I just don't have any idea and I stay there, like feeling confused. But it sounds to me like you were just opening yourself up to that higher power to say, what is it? Like, I am a vessel for this information to come. And that's when those divine downloads come. And usually the most profitable divine downloads.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, obviously that's what it is, because this has been your main bread and butter for how many years now?
We're going into my 4th year. Yeah.
That's incredible. So how many entrepreneurs usually fail in the first year? What is it, 90 something percent?
Yeah.
The fact that you're 4 years in, and now if you want to shift it, that's because you're choosing to shift it, not because the marketplace is choosing it for you or anybody else, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, so that is incredibly powerful. Do you feel like there is some formula for that? Because I feel like there are so many women who maybe they want to speak on stage, but maybe they just want to put their passions into the world.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Speak to that for a moment?
Yeah, I think that it comes through really this desire to serve.
Yeah.
So as soon as I start to focus too much on the money, which can happen, I mean, we're in a business, we need to know our numbers. I totally get that. I'm killer at working my calculator and figuring.
Oh, you're good at numbers. Yeah, you are. You'll send me this thing, and I'm just like, okay. And I'm good at numbers, but yeah, you're good at them.
So it is important. We are in a business, but most important is that you understand that you're doing this for a higher purpose. That you feel that call, that deeper why too, like really tapping into that. And we hear that a lot, but you have to come back to that over and over again. And sometimes it shifts, right? It shifts and changes. And then it is about every time I've launched, there's this piece of me where I plan, I figured it out. So there's only so much that our logical brains can do, right? Like where we are like, we have it mapped out. We know how it's going to look. We know what's going to happen. So even when you're trying to find that idea, like you can be like on paper, this is what I'm doing and I'm over here and this is who I'm serving and I got my elevator pitch and everything's good, right? But then there's always this space of like let go and surrender. And this happens in every launch too, where I'm not quite at that point, right, that I would like to be, or things aren't quite going like I plan, and the freak out starts to happen. And in the freak out of like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what, right, it's not working out like I'm planned, and we can get into this cycle. But if we just then show gratitude for where we are right now, I'm so grateful for that one person who said yes, or for that one idea, or for that opportunity to still be in my job because that's funding my dream. So if we can just sit in that gratitude and let go and surrender in that and get creative, right? That came after a Zumba class where I wasn't trying to figure it out. I wasn't trying to figure it out. I was allowing and being present and feeling called to something bigger. And in that place of creativity and openness is where the downloads come.
That is amazing. So it's like, it really is a spiritual journey, right?
Absolutely.
Radio, because it is about having a thriving business, and women are pioneering a new way. You know, I mean, it sounds like you've learned so much along the way that you never could have taken a course about, or, you know, no one could have taught you. And I'm sure you've had mentors along the way, because that's, of course. But now you've become someone else's mentor, because I'm kind of boiling down to one thing. So you let me know. But to me, it sounds a lot like inspired action.
Yes.
And courageous action.
Yes. And everything that I teach, and that's the beauty of it. I felt in that very beginning, the first business name that I had was the Courage Revolution. And then I shifted into the speaking and the center stage. But through everything I've ever done, it boils down to courage. Courage to speak your truth, courage to be vulnerable, courage to show up, courage to shine, courage to let go, courage to be present, courage to, you know, take imperfect action. And so it is the mix of alignment and then action, courageous action. So alignment to your why, to spirit, to whatever that alignment is of that higher purpose. And then from there, courageous action. And the more, I always say, courageous action is what leads to clarity. So even if we don't have it all figured out, just like I launched Center Stage with a blog post and an ugly PayPal button, you know, it wasn't perfect, but it was action in the right direction.
And look what it created. I mean, each and every time, each and every story, I do think it boils down to this. And I think when you're stuck, and so, well, okay, let me actually fast forward a second. So in Center Stage, you help women who already have a business, right? They probably already know their why, because they're motivated to invest in themselves and really get this amazing result with you, right?
But
let's have it.
I actually do find a lot of women, even when they've started their business, there's something missing for a lot of women. And it boils down to clarity is the word that everyone that I've ever worked with is, I just need clarity. Clarity on like, how do I say what I'm doing? How do I like connect the dots? I don't really know how to say my story or right. And so that's where the magic actually comes. And every single person, if you'll read, you know, any testimonials, that word clarity is in there over and over and over again, because in the process of finding your story and really owning it and seeing the golden threads, and often your story is something that you didn't think even connected to your work because it's personal. It's a personal story, and yet it absolutely does. And so seeing this connection and these threads through your work and your message gives them this confidence, yes, but clarity in like, this is who I am. This is what makes me different. This is my story. No one else has this story. And this is why I have a message that needs to be heard.
Oh,
So
I love that.
that's powerful.
Is it the story? I mean, I know we were going to talk about story a little bit, and I love, in my Rock Your Videos course, which is kind of like the mini online live version of Center Stage in a way, right? I mean, I feel like we probably do end up teaching really similar things just on different platforms. And so last night I had my Rock Your Videos live class, and it's our story week. Week 3 is all about your story. And so we dove into that, and every time I teach it, of course it reminds me, right? And also I feel like it becomes more and more powerful. And I was actually the most excited when I saw the day. I was like, oh yes, like this is so exciting, because I feel like there is something more powerful than we can even describe by owning your story. It's less about telling the story, and it's more about getting the courage to own it and really see, like, to take value from it. And so is that kind of partly what happens at Center Stage?
Yeah, super clarity through that piece. And even in sharing our stories, that's where I always say it's really not about us, it's about them.
Yeah.
So even realizing that in telling our stories, it's actually the lessons we've learned, the experiences we've had, that's why we're sharing it, because those are the moments, those are the messaging, those are the truths, those are the lessons that we're ultimately going to teach.
Yeah.
And that's for others, right? Again, it comes back to that service piece. But absolutely, story, I didn't realize, I knew to be a good speaker, you needed to be able to tell great stories. And I knew your personal story was so important, but until really diving into this work and seeing it becomes the foundation of every product, program, messaging, all of that comes through really diving into your story.
Wow. So if you could give a little bit of advice to our viewers on discovering their story, is there something that you pick out as, the initial phase of it, or, just a certain way to look at how do you really find the value in your own story?
Absolutely. So I say that there's a diamond moment, right? So there's a diamond moment where it's a breakdown that leads to a breakthrough.
Yeah.
One of the biggest objections is I've had so many breakdowns and breakthroughs. How do I choose just one? So, I mean, you can absolutely give a little bit of backstory. That's part of that journey, but the core focus, we're not telling a timeline. So it's not, I was born in 19, whatever. Anyway, it's not like this timeline. Then I got married. Then I did this. Then I did that.
Right.
We need to paint the picture. And we need to bring so much emotion into it that the people listening feel as if they're right there with us in that moment.
Yeah.
So that's
feeling, right? So I had a divorce in the year 2000, but you also could reference it like, when I got divorced, the feelings, instead of like, this is what happened, this is how it played out in my life.
Absolutely. And then even paint that picture of the moment that decision was made. So even in not just saying I had that divorce, it was the moment where I was laying beside my husband and I realized, we are no longer on the same path.
Yeah.
Right? Do you see the difference in saying I had my divorce and like that? It's that diamond moment where you realize, and this is where the ultimate diamond moment is we can have breakdowns and breakthroughs all along the way because we are stubborn women who need to, or men who need to hear it over and over and over often before we actually take action and change. And so it's that ultimate moment where not only did you gain that insight or have that aha, but you actually chose to take action in that direction. It's the shift.
It's the shift.
It's the pivotal moment for you. So that's so important. And also knowing it can be something so simple. So one of my ladies that I had worked with, I love sharing her story, is she wanted to talk about true strength and what true strength really was. And her husband, when she was pregnant with their second little baby, they were newlyweds still just about, and he got diagnosed with cancer, was given 10% chance to live. They went bankrupt because they were in business together. They had all these bills. Like, she had major breakdown moments. And she's like, I just don't know what it is. I don't know. I can't find it. And as I asked her to just keep telling and keep sharing, you'll find it when it's the emotion. Like, you'll feel it. if you're not quite sure what that moment is. And for her, she was talking and then she said, you know, I was running around collecting the laundry, doing all my stuff, trying to just put on that strong face. When my little 2-year-old looked up at me with her big blue eyes and said, Mommy, are you happy? And she said, in that moment, I crumbled to the floor and I finally said, no, I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And true strength then became, it's okay to ask for help. You don't have to do it all alone. It's okay, right? So her definition of how she needed to show up completely shifted in that moment. Right? So yes, there's all these moments, but the simplest question from a 2-year-old was her diamond moment.
Wow.
Right?
And you helped her find that. She didn't really know that before.
Right.
That's incredible.
Right. And then another one, just to give a context, she helps women stand in their power. But her story came from being engaged and then actually it turning abusive. Wow. And she's like, I can't share that story. That has nothing to do with business and women in business. And I said, yeah, it does. So how we told it was the moment she found herself pinned up against the wall, her fiance screaming in her face, she had a choice. She could either choose to own her power and speak up for what she needed to do in that situation, or she could stay in that place. And then we changed it to you may not have experienced this in your life, but I can guarantee you've all had your back up against a wall at one point or another where you had to make a choice, right? So again, it's like finding that emotionally charged story that truly was that transition point for you, but also seeing the connection to the work. And it doesn't have to be a direct connection. It can be something that's kind of parallel, but the lesson is what you teach.
Yeah. Yeah. So powerful. And I do feel like it's part of what's missing, in the online space. And I think part of what's happening in the online space is that people are, buying into this. In 3 months, you can have an online business. You're going to be making 6 figures within 4 months, or, just all of this like rapid pace. And what happens is the story gets lost. And then the story just becomes everybody's story is, well, when I started to now I make money. Right. And so it's like that is the story kind of, but that's not the entire truth. And it's so much less to connect to because it's truly the connection we're looking for. Right. And other in the feelings you've had, that's where the power is. Right.
Yes, absolutely.
So it's not just speaking on stage that you help these women with. This is going to carry on and carry through into their business. This is the thread of their business.
Yes. It's funny. That's the common thing people would say about the center stage work is I thought I was coming in to learn how to be a speaker, and I actually got the clarity and the momentum and the understanding and the messaging and everything for my entire business. So they're like, this is not just a speaking course. This is a business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is amazing. It is funny because I think I knew we had similarities, but when I think about Rock Your Videos, that's the exact same thing people say.
Yes.
It's not because if you want to be visible, that is the outer layer, the visibility. And whether it's vulnerable or we're showing our real self, it's still the outer layer. Your business is on the inside of the visibility. And then we push that out from there. And so it is anybody who's going to teach you, which is speaking on stage is visibility, doing live video is visibility, right? And in order to really be firm in that and stand there with total confidence, it's going to take doing that inner work and having that really strong foundation, how you connect to your business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love it.
So amazing. So we're going to invite Michelle to hop on for a little hot seat coaching. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, love it.
And Michelle, are you ready to come on down? Let's see. Let's see if our there we go. So Michelle, you are welcome to, are you there, Michelle?
Can you hear me?
Hi, love. You were good. So just leave it how it is now. I unmuted you.
I got you.
And would you like to be on video or would you like to see on audio?
There I am.
Hi. Yay! Hi, Nicole.
How are you?
Love it. Welcome. Good to see you.
Good to see you guys. Thank you for having me.
I know, this is so exciting. Okay, so you've been here from the beginning where we're getting everything set up, but you've been listening. And so one, I want to know, is there something that you've taken out of this that you really want to elaborate on or ask a question on, or did you come in with a specific question?
Oh my gosh, I came in just because the topic drew me in, because I told my story and I told it in form of my book. And so I'm now, before I had written the book, I'd started a blog and I kind of wanted to throw out things that were near and dear to my heart, and didn't matter if I monetized it. But then that entrepreneur part said, we could probably monetize this and change what I want to do with my life, right? So then I thought the book's the best way to tell my story and kind of set my precedents and what my message is through that. So I did that. And now I'm in the market your book, and hey, you got a speaking engagement. Oh gosh, you got another speaking engagement, and that's new. So for me, I want to really hone that message and know how to take that story and not just go blah on stage and everybody's emotional. And that's not my point. I don't care about, I care about the story, but I don't care about making everybody draw in with the emotion to where, oh, poor me, that's really sad. I want it to be, but look what came from that. And here's how you can take better care of yourself. So when stressful times hit and everything hits the fan, then you're ready and have more of a background to not let that stress take your health down with it. So that's where I'm at. And now I'm kind of feeding my blog and making sure it all kind of has a good message and a theme. And it gets a little overwhelming, but I really just want to hone that in so I can say, hey, I'm on a Facebook Live now, or I started a Facebook group and I'm working through some of those things, talking with people, and just say, this is me, this is what I have for you. I hope that you find some inspiration in it. I really want you guys to feel safe here and sharing those insecurities, and I'm growing and you're growing, and let's do this together. And then really help the women that need that help to prioritize their self-care and really prioritize themselves, because we get lost in a shuffle between work and mommy and everything else. And so I'm a real big health and wellness advocate, and just trying to piece that together with keeping stress down and really taking care of yourself, so we become our priority to be better for those around us. So that's where I'm at. Yeah. And so I'm just sitting back here listening to you guys going, yes, that's exactly it. How do I take the story and just mold it to what exactly needs to be when you're presenting?
Okay, should I take it away?
Take it away.
Okay. So one of the things that I love is I have a very, very simple framework. So you can take this and plug and play. But basically what I believe is that, we have to have that introduction. So, you can have a powerful attention grabber, statement, picture, prop, image, something that's going to bring the audience to you, right? And then we lead right into our story. So first step is an attention grabber, and an intro. The second is going right into your story. Some people have a bigger intro because they feel they want to kind of set up the message. Others will just lead right into the story. And then the story, if you're giving an hour keynote, should be around 10 minutes tops.
Okay.
I feel. So depending on people's stories, sometimes it's 3 to 5, sometimes it's up to 10. So around that space, but within your story, you're going to drop the beautiful lessons. So when I do a story session, I don't think there's time for that, but you listen for the lessons, which you already know. Self-care is a priority. What are those top 3 beautiful lessons that you want to share? Kind of drop them in your story very naturally. So when I'm telling my story, I'll say, I knew I needed to face my fears. And so I wrote my fear list, and on the top of that list was jumping out of an airplane. And when I got the invitation to go, every part of me said, heck no, but I knew I needed to do it. And in that moment, I realized that I needed to make my why bigger than my fear. Okay, so I'm just saying that, and then I'm carrying on with the story. And so I decided to fall 10,000 feet, So I'm not saying step 1 in my story. I'm saying, and I'm not even saying it's a lesson, but I'm plugging the lessons throughout my story and making them powerful and what I call tweetables. So that would be a statement make your why bigger than your fear, that someone would write down or tweet out, right? So it's about kind of getting these beautiful little golden nuggets sprinkled in your story, so that then when you turn it back to your audience, those are the key points that you're going to walk them through. And there's already a connection piece. They're already making a connection with those points. So we've got attention grabber, into your story, sprinkle your lessons in your story, turn it back to them. And now I like to say it's the power of 3. So depending on the length of your speech, have no more than 3 main points. So those are your biggest lessons. And I also like to say, take them on a journey. So if there is something, if you were working with someone one-on-one, for example, and you were actually working with them through this process, what would be like the very first thing you would need them to be on board with? Like, is it something mindset? Is it something awareness? Is it like, what's that very first step? What's that step that they need to take? And then second main point would be that next step. Third main point, next step. So it's a journey, right?
Yeah,
so
nice.
Instead of just randomness, like actually think of the bulk of your speech as you're taking them from point A to point B within that journey.
Good.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then if it's a longer speech, here's where the power of 3 comes in. 3 main points, up to 3 sub points. Okay. So tell me like one of your big lessons. What's one of your big core pieces that you would share?
That we have the ability to make choices in our life. So we can always be constantly changing what doesn't work or what we're afraid to go reach for. It's up to us to make that choice.
Okay. So it's like choices is your main thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then sub point is you have the power to choose no matter what's going on in your life. So it's bringing them into, and here's another little tip here is take them through what is it? So like choices, what is this? It's about the fact that we have accountability in our lives and that no matter what's going on, we have a choice always, right? So kind of touching on that, this is just an idea. It doesn't have to follow this format. Then the next point is the why. Why does this matter? Why do choices matter in our life? And then the next point can be the how. So that's one way to have like kind of a progression under your main point.
Okay.
Or you have 3 separate points. So it just depends on what you're teaching. So choices could be, it's up to you. How do I make a choice, right? How do I come into that? So if you think about choices as the overall big message, what's the steps to help, again, a mini transition, a mini journey within that main point? How do I get them to that place from everything's happening to me to I am in control of my destiny, right? What's that point A to point B? So within the full thing, we have a journey of the 3 main points. Within each point, we take them on a little mini journey from what is this about? Why does it matter to me? And how can I actually do it?
And so that's for a space if you have more than an hour spot where you can really develop that, or you can kind of blend it in as needed. Okay.
So an hour, you probably will have time to do 3 points.
Yeah.
If it's like, say, a 20-minute to a 30-minute kind of in there, you're only going to be able to do like the 3 main points. You're not going to be able to go as deep, right? So then it's more about the general message of that main point. And maybe how I always like to leave people with actionable hows, no matter what, so that they can feel like they got something valuable from your time with them in that moment, right? So no matter what, always look for, it always, kind of irks me when people give like, why is this and what is it and why is it important to do it? And they leave you hanging with the how. I always give them a how and they can go deeper on the how with you later on.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's beautiful.
That was amazing. That will be
right?
$8,000.
Yeah, thank you very much. Here's my PayPal button.
Is that what you were looking for?
Yeah, that helps a lot because, I don't know if you can remember back to the very first time you ever spoke. Did it just feel like a big jumbled mess, even though somebody might have taken something away from it? I just was like, I am not doing that again. It's going to be like, a little more reined in. And
yes. And can I say the perfect blend? So this is something a lot of people are like, how do you memorize your speech? Do not memorize your speech.
No.
Right? And I actually really don't like people to even write it out. Because then you fall in love with your words and how you perfectly edited it.
Yeah.
So what I say is presence, have your framework. So that's your framework, right? I just told you the framework. I'm going to write it down here because I like to write things down. No. So your framework is attention grabber and intro, story, first main point, second main point, third main point, conclusion. So that's what I say to people. Just write that on a piece of paper,
yeah,
right? And with a couple, maybe you need a statement that you love, like your tweetable statement, or a transition statement that you need to write it down. But there should be like a half a page of notes, and that's your speech. Then you practice from that half a page. And when you're delivering it live, it's about presence in that moment. So having that framework in the back of your mind so that you know where you can go next, but also being okay with going in a totally different direction because that's what the audience needs.
Yeah, and that's fine. And what caught me off guard, which I didn't expect, and maybe it's normal, I don't know, was when I actually stood in front of this room full of women and told my story. It's one thing to write it and massage it and put it down. It's another to go, oh, it's my story. I've got this. I can tell my story. And then you stand up there and you tell your story. And then, like you said, that flood of emotion comes out of nowhere. And you're just kind of going, wait, that's not what I wanted to happen. You know, like erase, you can't just start over. So you have to kind of roll with it. But that caught me off guard. And I didn't like that at all. Like, it just was weird saying it out loud and not having been the person that's always done that, you know?
And in that, I want to say emotion can be beautiful, and to not suppress that either. I mean, if we're ugly crying, you know, we probably need
well, yeah, it wasn't ugly. It was just, it was that moment where like, you probably, everything went blank and you know you're up there and you're pausing and you're not rushing and you're trying to coherently put everything together, but everything just felt like this for a few minutes. And then you kind of came back and we had an exercise and we did that and it was good. But it's funny, what I thought when I got off the stage, what I felt was different from the feedback I was getting. So at least I got feedback where like, oh my gosh, I couldn't even imagine what the story and the emotion. And I was just like in my head going, what would I do? And, you know, so that was what we want. We want to affect them with the story and have that teachable with it. But it just felt like, you know, crazy, cray.
Can I tell you, when I step off a stage and I go, I have no idea what I just said.
Right.
Yeah.
But I actually know that's my genius.
Yes.
That's your higher self taking over. That's exactly what needed to happen. So it's actually a blessing
Okay.
to recognize that you are so in tune in that moment where you totally, it was like, whoop, but it's because you're, whatever you believe in, whatever, but I really believe you were getting a download there. You were saying exactly what you needed to say in that moment. And there are so many times I walk off the stage and I'm like, I kind of know what I said, but there were points where I was completely almost like, out of body, right? Like you're like, I don't even know what I just said.
Yeah.
It's like anything. I mean, anything is going to feel incredibly uncomfortable the first time you do it when you have all these nerves, and then you're going to know what to expect next time.
Yeah.
You can leverage those feelings. Like Chantelle said, if you're standing up there telling your story and you don't actually feel anything, the audience is not going to feel anything either.
Right.
And so they're going to feel what you feel. And that is important. And the more powerful, without ugly crying, like the more powerful that you can stand in it and deliver it, the more powerful the message is going to be.
Awesome.
So it's probably just getting comfortable with being uncomfortable in a new way.
I think it is. And then you throw in your live video or your videos in general and just putting yourself and being vulnerable from, it's a whole big mix. And there was a point, Jaya, it's so funny, like, this wasn't that long ago. So there was about a month ago. I'm like, what am I even doing? This is not what I need to be doing, because it's just that resistance. Yeah. And then I realized I sat with it. I'm like, it's just because you haven't done it. Like
it's called a vulnerability hangover, and it's a thing. But that's why, at least for me, I always need to have a coach or somebody holding me accountable. Because when you are taking your life to the next level and you're constantly stepping out, stepping up, and creating that vulnerable feeling, it's, our ego is always going to come up. And it's so important to have someone else hold that vision for you or with you.
Yeah.
Can I share 3 little tips that came up to, like, just as you're talking, I'm like, I need to share these 3 little tips for speaking on stage, speaking wherever. And so first one is that I learned, just like you were just talking about, the very first big keynote I ever had was this big university, and it was thousands of students. And I was like, ooh, they're all coming to see me. I'm such a big hotshot. Like, I really came in with this, like, kind of, and I had memorized my speech. So I was doing all the things that I now know are not what you're supposed to do. So anyways, but in that place, I realized that, it's so not about me.
Yeah.
It's about them. And when you leave your ego at the door And then it doesn't matter if you fall on your face or you mix up your words or you say something crazy or you forget what you're saying because you're here in service. And the other thing I say every single time I take the stage, and I say it to all of the people I work with, is that you say, if I can touch even just one life, then it is all worth it. So when you go in that space of service, focusing on your one and knowing, I really, really believe that when we are called to speak in whatever event or space, that there is someone who is desperately needing exactly what you have to share. And of course we can touch all, but if we can truly help change one person's life through speaking up, then it's worth it. And I come back to that in my business. You know, when I start to get, oh, I need to have X amount on my list and I need to do this and that. Wait a minute. If I can touch one person, it's worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Absolutely.
And also why? Coming back to that why, like I said, making that why bigger than that fear is a lesson I teach all the time. So why do you want to speak? Why do you want to share your story? And going deeper and being like your 2-year-old self and saying, well, why? Well, why? Until you that really deep core why, then that's where you can lead with that.
Nice.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
that is beautiful. Thank you so much, Michelle. Did you get what you needed out of that?
And more, for sure.
And more. That is amazing. Well, I would highly suggest coming back to the episode and replaying it.
This is happening.
All your notes. So
yes.
I love how you were just present in this moment, but I think notes.
I was like, I can write this later. This is all good.
I was like, yeah, we'll just write it later. So thank you so much for being our hot seat.
You're welcome. Thanks, guys.
Yay. All right, Ms. Chantelle, what I want to do is just ask you kind of my last question.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think I can guess what the answer is going to be, and this is a testament to how clear you are on your core message. So kudos to you, but I want to hear you say it anyway. So when you meet somebody, when you leave a room, you just did that hot seat coaching with Michelle, you know, you had that little bit of experience. Whether it's a little bit of experience or your whole entire lifetime and is not, you know, you've passed away. What do you want to leave people with? How do you want Michelle to feel? How do you want everybody who comes into your life and contact to really feel from getting to know you?
That they are seen and heard, and that their story matters, and that they need to have the courage to step up and share it because their one is waiting. Needing it. You know, we can create a ripple effect, and it comes back to having the courage to do whatever it is that we're called to do in that moment, whether it's calling someone, whether it's saying yes to an opportunity like this, whether it's whatever it is. When we say yes from that place of service and we step out with courage, then we create that ripple effect.
I love that. You are a shining example of that, and we feel that. And you lead by your example. So perfect. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today. This is really impactful for me, and I'm guessing all the other viewers. So I can't wait to connect with you again. And love you.
Love you too.
Bye, everybody.